What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Sauber career. As you can see from the location, we are here in lovely Monaco, ready for round 6 of the season 1 for the Monaco Grand Prix. If we have a quick look into the laptop, if you guys didn't check out the last 2 episodes, please feel free to do so, because we've been on a really good amount of form in the last 2 races, where we've managed to get our first points on the board and have managed to elevate Sauber up into the top 5 as it stands. I'm not expecting us to stay there as the season progresses, but it's good to get those points on the board already, and they're already banked up, just in case McLaren decide to have a bit of form come towards the end of the season. But anyways, I'm not expecting us to do very well here, because number one, our car is not suited in terms of the aerodynamics and chassis, and also I hate Monaco. It is my least favourite circuit in real life and also in the game. So I'm just going to have to straight away apologise for the incredibly bad driving that you're about to see. But let's get into practice.
Welcome to Monaco for this weekend's Formula One Grand Prix. It's a race that is truly steeped in history, but before the drivers turn their attention to winning, they first need to get through today's tricky practice session. Lowes Hairpin is the slowest corner of any track on the Formula One calendar. It's taken at just 48 kilometers an hour, but provides a stunning view on the first lap as the entire grid bunches up and tiptoes through the corner, hoping not to leave any carbon fibre parts behind.
This is such a tight bend that a special steering rack is used just to get around this very corner, as the cars would not normally be able to make the turn. There is the possibility of overtaking through Lowes, but more often than not, you'll end up damaging your car.
Now, normally this is the part of the episode where I show you what happens in the practice sessions and how we do in the practice programs, but unfortunately, it didn't go so well. Yes, we passed all of them, but in terms of the actual practice session itself, it just took me so long and so many attempts to do it. The amount of mistakes I was making was just ridiculous, and also, the car doesn't fully turn in at Lowes Hairpin with the controller, so it's really, really frustrating. So, instead, I'm going to show you a little bit of a montage of all my terrible bits of driving during practice. Be warned, incredibly bad driving is about to be shown. Looks like I didn't follow the advice that Jolyon Palmer gave on street circuits, which was...
Are you alright? Engine off, engine off. Are you okay? That was a big one. Confirm you're okay. Circuit, this is a really strong foundation to build. What happened? Are you alright? Engine off, engine off. Are you okay? That was a big one. Confirm you're okay. That looked bad. Are you alright? Let me know you're alright. That looked bad. Are you alright? Engine off, engine off. Are you okay? That was a big one. Confirm you're okay, please.
Now let's get into qualifying.
We're here in magical Monaco for this afternoon's qualifying session, which will be getting underway shortly. Now then, Anthony Davidson, you're not getting any younger, but you have been involved in your fair share of qualifying sessions in an illustrious 30-year career. How do you deal with the pressure when you have that one chance to deliver a perfect lap?
It's not so much about dealing with the pressure, it's more about how you approach the risk. Just how much of it are you willing to take? You're constantly balancing the car on the edge of grip from braking, cornering and traction. And over the course of a lap, it's easy to get that balance wrong. And that's why achieving the perfect lap is almost impossible. As you say, I've been doing this 30 years now, and it never gets any easier.
Alright, here we are in qualifying 1. Fortunately, the qualifying session wasn't as hectic as it was in the practice sessions after you saw all the mistakes and all the crashes that I made throughout the practice sessions. Fortunately, though, I had to use all the flashbacks in the world to make sure that none of those things actually happened. But didn't have to use too many in qualifying today. But on the second lap now, aim is just to try and set as fast lap time as possible. I don't really care about positions, primarily because I've got a kind of plan up my sleeve when it comes to making the most out of this weekend. I don't expect myself to be on the scoreboard this weekend after good results in the last 2 races, but currently sitting in 10th place right now after 2 laps, but that slowly becomes P20, as you can see right now. We're now on to our third lap. We are improving our lap time, though, as we head up towards the new bus change. It's probably one of my quickest parts of the circuit. Quite like, I think mainly because I can go quickly through that particular section. But everything before that and everything after that, I'm horrendous at. So anyway, so now coming across the line, we are going to improve on our lap time and actually move up into P18. And that's actually the position we do end up staying in as we end the session. Yeah, we're out in qualifying 1, but that was kind of expected. But what I wasn't expecting is to beat my teammate and also Stoffel Van Dorn. I was expecting myself to be last by quite some margin. So that's a bonus at least, but it's going to be a really tricky race coming up anyways. But we're going to cut to the performance upgrade tree, primarily because we're going to get an upgrade fitted onto the car, and we're going to be focusing on the engine side of things this time, because of the fact we've got some power tracks coming up, the likes of Baku and also Austria, which will be quite useful. And the fact is, this upgrade will come in Baku if we purchase it now. So I thought, why not get it on the car, ready for the arguably the longest straights in Formula 1 on the calendar, and we'll have a little bit more power, and therefore we'll be able to make some more overtakes down the straight, and also to be able to defend from more the Renault-based cars, primarily because they're the closest to us in terms of the performance grade. But also another thing we decided to do, I decided to take quite a lot of engine penalties, mainly because I knew we weren't really going to get anything out of this weekend. So I thought, let's just take the penalties now. Let's get a fifth engine component fifth component for each of the parts of the engine, and just ensure that we will start last. But that just means we won't have to micromanage too much in the near future with regards to engines. So I decided to do that, take a little hit with the penalties, but it's one of those things. I'm not expecting myself to score any points today, so I'm expecting myself to crash actually. So we'll have to wait and see on that forever. Anyways, let's get on with the race now.
And as the drivers start thinking about getting a good start and how on earth to get through Saint-Devote in one piece, I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, if we might be seeing a safety car or two today.
Well, you wouldn't exactly bet against it, would you? Statistically, it is pretty common, of course. About 80% of all Monaco Grand Prix will have at least one safety car. And that's despite the incredible work of the marshals around here, who you'll often see lifting cars out of the way just under the yellow flag conditions. The teams will always plan for the worst case scenario though, and they'll be making sure various caution periods are built into their strategy models for the race.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and Kimi Räikkönen completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, and Massa, Kvyat, Hülkenberg, Bottas, and Max Verstappen, Alonso, Magnussen, Carlos Sainz, and Palmer, Stroll, Ocon, Romain Grosjean, and Stoffel Van Dorn, Wehrlein, and a Sauber rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
No heroics into Saint-Devote, please. We're in amongst the pack and just need to stay in one piece.
That might be difficult to do considering what happened in practice, but anyways, if you saw on the grid there, a lot of drivers taking penalties, so it looks like they all had the same sort of idea as me. I think they were all gearbox related issues, primarily because it is race 6, and probably the gearbox wear on some of the other cars might be a little bit marginal. But anyways, this is now the race strategy we're going into. Switching the tyre compounds around, we're going to be starting on the super soft tyre and then going on to the ultra soft tyre. For some reason it wasn't allowing me to switch to ultra soft in that particular screen, but we're going to do it right here. There you go. And I think this is probably the better strategy, primarily because if a safety car comes out, we can just maintain track position until the very end and then just put on the ultra soft to see how fast we can go. But I'm not expecting me to get that far. If things don't go our way, I'm considering just retiring. But we'll have to wait and see. You never know what actually will happen in Monaco as we now come onto the formation lap. Objectives are, as always, just to try and get as far as we can up the field. Try and hold on. I think it will be a little bit easier at this race, primarily because of the fact that this circuit is incredibly narrow and very hard to overtake, unless you're Max Verstappen. But anyways, let's now get on with. That's enough of me rambling. Let's get on with the race. Lights out and away we go, and unfortunately for us isn't the greatest of starts from our perspective, but look at Wehrlein trying to make a move up the inside of Van Dorn prior to Sander Vogt. We're going to try and follow our teammates through as the cars concertina up. There's been an incident though on the outside of the corner, and we've been handed an illegal overtake for apparently overtaking Van Dorn, I think because we went all four wheels on the curb right there, but yeah, 3 cars I think were involved because we're now up to 17th place. One of the cars is retired, and it looks like Verstappen was one of the cars that was involved in that instead. Let's have a quick look at the replay and see what actually happened. No problems for the front main players, the 2 Ferraris and the Mercedes. It looks like Williams goes straight on, and Verstappen just runs into the back of him, and I think he was joined by a Renault just running into the back of him. So this is on board Verstappen's perspective. I think he locks up a little bit and is forced wide and therefore runs to the back. That's his front wing damage. I think that's the Williams of Massa that gets knocked out of the race because of that incident. Jolyon Palmer's forced out wide by some other car because there's no space on the outside due to Verstappen's car. That's why he runs into the back, and that's why he is also in trouble. As we now come back to our point of view, it's a green flag as we head up towards the Lowe's hairpin, trying to go up the inside of Van Dorn, but it's a really clumsy manoeuvre, very similar to Lewis Hamilton trying to overtake Felipe Massa back in 2011. Didn't look like it had any front wing damage, as you can see. We didn't have, the front wing didn't actually change in terms of colour, but I think Van Dorn also picked up front wing damage. We cut towards the end of the lap. We were able to actually stick with the McLaren. As you can see, he goes straight into the pit lane, so it must be some really bad front wing damage from our very late manoeuvre up the inside. It was really something I probably should have really thought about, but didn't get a penalty from it, which was quite interesting, which was fair enough. But as you can see, we're already miles back from our teammate due to this. Yeah, we're now on to lap 2. The engineer has actually got some something to say to us as we come through the corners.
The damage only looks minor, but you'll need to take it easy to avoid making the problem worse.
So as you just heard from the engineer, we actually do have some front wing damage. So the contact we did make with Van Dorn did cause some minor front wing damage. Again, though, on the graphic, there is no indication that there is any front wing damage. So I guess it's the reason why we're understeering quite badly through and struggling through this part of the swimming pool complex of the circuit. As we're now on to the end, coming up towards the end of lap number 4. Again, nothing really happening, to be honest, mainly because we're just not quick enough to keep up with my teammate, mainly because of the combination of the fact that we've got front wing damage and also the fact that we're on super soft tyres. Although we set our best lap of the race at the end of lap number 8, and that's one of our very few laps we're able to close the gap a bit on Wehrlein. But yeah, it was a very lonely and boring race up till probably in a couple of laps later, where we're on to the end of lap 11. We actually make a couple of places, mainly because of 2 drivers making their first pit stops. These guys are going to be on a 2-stop strategy for some reason. I don't know why. It baffles me why they're going on a 2-stop when in the race in real life everyone was on a 1-stop unless you had some sort of front wing damage. And now on to lap 14 as we come out of Portier. We actually hit on the exit. We actually hit the front wing, and Verstappen has managed to catch all the way back up to us after his incident. We're going side by side in the tunnel. We hit the wall on the outside there. Very fortunate not to have any sort of damage as we come into the New Bell chicane. Incredibly hot. Yes, we get a warning for exceeding track limits, but Verstappen was really ambitious trying to make a move in the tunnel. We've seen it on so many occasions when drivers are on the inside going into the tunnel. The driver on the outside always ends up in the wall. We saw that with Fernando Alonso back in 2004 when he was trying to lap Ralf Schumacher, and also we saw that when Hamilton was side by side with Massa. We are understeer wide into Casino Square. Verstappen trying to go around the outside into the Massenet, but unfortunately he's been forced wide, and that allows Lance Stroll to take the position away from us, heading into Mirabeau. And then we're now under pressure from the Williams as we come up to the end of lap 16 up towards Sander Vogt. Stroll may have a run of us going into Sander Vogt here, but we've managed to fend him off just about, holding the inside line just about. So he was up, he did have a nose up the inside, but he wasn't too far ahead of us. So yeah, we managed to fend him off right there. Cut to a few more laps later on lap 20, getting pretty close to our pit stop lap here as we come through Casino Square section, understeering wide again unfortunately, and Stroll trying to do the same thing as what Verstappen did, but that's cost him a potential position. No, it hasn't actually. It looks as if the McLaren Honda wasn't able to make a move right there as we head up towards the Lowe's hairpin. As you can see, we completely mess up the chicane, the hairpin, in trying to make the corner, but unfortunately we've actually lost a bit more of our front wing, so it's now actually time to, I think, to make our pit stop. We have to come in a couple of laps earlier, and we're going to have to go onto the soft tyres. We now come to the end of the lap. We're actually up into P9 temporarily though, because of the fact that everyone else has made their pit stops, and now we're all on ultra softs. Alonso is just behind us right now. I think he's also got some front wing damage. I'm not 100% sure on that. But we're going to come into the pits now. Let's see how quickly the mechanics can get this changed. It's going to be a long pit stop because of the front wing change, but we'll have to wait and see. And unfortunately, we ended up getting held because Alonso's pit stop time was a little bit quicker than ours, and that's the reason why we've dropped position. We're now back into last place, unfortunately, out of all the runners. We then come on to lap 21, though, to start lap 22, though. Carlos Sainz exits the pits after his, I think, second pit stop. We're side by side as we head up towards the casinos, up the hill towards Casino Square. Hit the wall on the outside, but we're able to take the position. We're now up into P18 for now, at least. I'm expecting Sainz to possibly make a move on those fresher super soft tyres. We're now cutting to the end of lap 23 as we come up towards Sandoval. There's a car in the wall, and that is Verstappen again. He's not having a good race like us, and also I think there was a Haas involved in that. I'm not 100% sure which Haas was involved, but yeah, that's 2 free positions, I guess. If we manage to maintain position, we'll be in a really good shape. As we now come on to the end of lap 27, we completely mess up Raskas. Very nearly do a Michael Schumacher of 2006. Enter Anthony Nose right now. We've got blue flags in operation here. We're about to be lapped. As Sainz tries to make a move round the outside of us into Sandoval, but we're going to fend him off by having the inside line and ensuring we maintain position. He then has to let whoever that is behind through, as we now try and let a couple of drivers come through. Now that is the Force India Perez, and also Bottas, who's pretty far down the field compared to say his teammate, etc. But we now head into the Nouvelle Chicane. We just about get through it normally, and Sainz is just behind us as well. So we're going to have to keep our whips about us. We've now got another car trying to lap us. We now completely mess up Casino Square and very nearly go into the wall sideways, but just about let Magnussen through right there, and we are still maintaining P16 for now. As we now come on to lap 30, only 10 more laps of this hell to deal with on my end. As we now come in towards the Lowe's hairpin again, another messed up turn in, and we've damaged the front wing again. But this time around, I decided I'm going to try and stick it out with this badly damaged front wing. And then we then damaged the left part of the front wing on the exit of Portier, and now we're in real trouble in terms of performance. We now head up to towards the Nouvelle Chicane. Sainz is getting pretty close to us, but looks like, I think there's a yellow flag in play, and Sainz actually spun at the Nouvelle Chicane. He must have hit the curb on the outside with his left rear, like we did in the practice sessions, and that caused the virtual safety car actually. So a little bit of respite. I probably could have come into the pits right now, but to be honest, I wasn't that particularly fussed. I was actually considering parking up the car after the VSC, but I'm going to carry on just for now and see if we can keep it going. But as you can see, the understeer is absolutely insane. You saw how bad we were with the worn super softs earlier on in the race, but even with this now, we're just really struggling. As we now come in towards the Nouvelle Chicane again on lap 31, we completely messed up, and this time the stewards decided to give us a time penalty, even though that was probably only our second warning, in my opinion. So you know what, I really had enough of this race. We let Hulkenberg through, and I've decided I'm going to save the engine, I'm going to save the gearbox, I'm going to park up off the circuit at Sandoval, and we're going to retire from our first race of the season. And let's just get out of Monaco as quickly as possible.
And as we can see, it's time for the podium, and as the drivers make their way out, there's a familiar red suit making its way to the top step. Fantastic win for Ferrari. And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. It's a good result for Kimi Räikkönen, who extends his advantage at the top of the championship. And now I'd like to ask you, Anthony Davidson, who was your driver of the day?
Well, it's a difficult decision for sure, but I'm going to say Pascal Wehrlein. We've been seeing his talent elsewhere for a while now, and it's good to see him making the same kind of impact in Formula One.
And now let's take a look at the constructors' standings. Ferrari extend their lead at the top of the championship. Meanwhile, Renault move up the table with another strong performance this weekend. After all that excitement, it's time for a lie down, I think. Thanks for joining us, and goodbye until the next race.
So confirmation of the results, Raikkonen wins the race with Hamilton second, Vettel third, Ricciardo in fourth, Bottas in fifth, getting in front of Perez in sixth, Magnussen in seventh, good result for Haas, Hulkenberg eighth, Kvyat ninth, and Esteban Ocon in 10th, Kvyat getting his first points of the year. Good result for Pascal Wehrlein in 13th, but unfortunately he wasn't able to add to the points tally, and we were one of 2 retirements in the race. In the Drivers' Championship, as you heard, Kimi Raikkonen has extended his lead at the top. Ricciardo again gets ahead of his teammate. That battle between the 2 Red Bulls is going to continue throughout the rest of the season, I think. Those 2 are really at it. Magnussen moves up into 9th and actually level on points with us after his point score being finished today. Hulkenberg moves up into top 10 as well. The reason why we're ahead of Magnussen is because of countback. I think the fact we managed to finish in 6th place in Russia is the reason why we did that. But Magnussen's result has seen Haas move in front of us in terms of the Constructors' Championship up into 5th place. Renault, the other movers, moving ahead of Williams into 7th, whilst Toro Rosso get a couple more points on the board in 9th. And looks like Ferrari have extended their lead at the top due to their bigger points tally that they managed to obtain at this particular Grand Prix. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the race. It's not going to be the end of the episode though, because fortunately we didn't end this episode on a low note. So without further ado, I'm just going to go straight into a cutscene.
Hey, you'll like this. I just got out of a meeting with the boss and, well, congratulations. You've done a great job. Here.
Oh wow, thank you, Emma. Looks like we managed to get first driver role at Sauber, despite having a poor result in this particular race. But yeah, I'm going to take that because that means we'll be able to get some more resource points. But again, this is not the end of the episode. I'm actually going to go back to some of the classic events that I played a couple of episodes ago, but I haven't actually shown you yet. So we're going to do a couple of those, and I'll see you in a minute. Alright, here we are in Silverstone. The aim of this Classic Car Challenge was to overtake 12 cars in a given amount of time. This is around the shortened Silverstone circuit, and this was the first Classic Car event I was able to do. This has actually happened just after the Australian Grand Prix, if you guys remember from the first episode when the main Classic Car guy actually comes and talks to you about the Classic Car events that will happen throughout the season. But anyways, we've already made one position up as we head up towards the turning point, which goes back onto the hangar straight. But we were very ambitious, I think, with that overtake. But with this sort of challenge, you need to make those overtakes count and also not lose too much time behind these slower cars. These McLarens, I think these are McLaren MP4s, but as you can see, we're now on, we've got just under 2.5 minutes to complete it. We're currently on 4 overtakes right now. This is number 5 as we head up towards Stoke Corner. I'm going to try and get number 6 as we head up towards the chicane prior to the start-finish straight. It's going to be a bit of an ambitious manoeuvre, but I think we can make the move stick. Yes, we just about do. This Williams car handles pretty well. It's the 1996 car that's Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve drive back in '96, in which Damon Hill managed to win the World Championship, his only World Championship, but it's a World Championship anyways. But we're now on to coming back onto the hangar straight. We're going to go up the inside of this next driver, and that was a much better manoeuvre than compared to the last one we tried a bit earlier on in the episode, as we're now earlier on in the highlights. But anyways, we're now on to the start-finish straight, getting past this driver on the left-hand side. Very straightforward pass. Didn't have to worry about a late braking manoeuvre into Stowe. We're now right on the back of the following driver. I can't remember what the drivers' names are off the top of my head, but going around the outside prior to the chicane, and we're not too far away from getting this. We are just one overtake required with now 10 seconds remaining. It looks like we're probably going to be able to do it in the right-hander right here, and there he is. We've just about managed to pass the Classic Car Challenge with just a couple of seconds remaining, but that was absolutely fantastic. We got off the Classic Car content off to a flyer, which was absolutely fantastic. And also, the positive thing is that you can gain better competency points if you pass the challenges. I think that improves your upgrade speed, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I will check that up the next time I do a classic event. But anyways, this is the next classic event that's happened after the Russian Grand Prix, and this is a time attack one. So the aim of this one was to try and lap the Austrian Grand Prix circuit or 3 laps of it in under 3 minutes 52. So this is using the McLaren MP44, so the car that we were using, that we were trying to overtake in the previous challenge. We've now come across the line to start lap 1 as we break into turn 1 right now, using a lot of curb though on the exit, mainly because this car was quite a handful if at low speed. So if you lose a lot of speed on the apex, then it's the back end starts to step out. So We're coming up now towards turn 2 or turn 3. I don't know what corner this number is, because I think this year they've actually made that little kink, left-hand kink, up towards that the heavy braking zone of the right-hander, an extra corner. So it's either turn 2 or turn 3. Anyways, we went up around the outside of a car right there as we end lap 1. We've got 2 minutes 35 on the clock remaining as we head up towards turn 1. I go a little bit greedy on the curbs, and we just keep it on the circuit and also get a warning for track limits right there. But fortunately, no penalties or anything like that. But we're now stuck behind Kaufman, who is in a either an 80s Williams or a 90s Williams. I'm not 100% sure on that. They've got Canon sponsors, which is not really helpful, because I think both of those Williams actually had a Canon sponsors. But yeah. Anyways, we're now trying to go up the inside of a Ferrari. That's a nice looking Ferrari. Not one of the quicker Ferraris, though, as we very nearly lose the back end there on the exit. We've got 50 seconds remaining to get round, probably around half the lap to go. So it's going to be nip and tuckers to see if we can actually make this here. We've got 12 seconds. We head up through the penultimate corner. Now heading towards the final corner, trying to get as much speed as we can off the apex of the corner. We've got 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, and it just about crossed the line, and we were able to beat the challenge. And that means that's another classic car challenge completed, and also it means we're a little bit closer to the core competency, one of the core competencies. I'm not 100%. I can't remember exactly which competency improves if you pass challenges, but I'll look it up in the next episode, because I think in the next episode I do actually have another classic car challenge thing, and I do get the competency upgrade. So we'll wait and see on that, and you'll get to enjoy that a little bit later on. But anyways, this is going to be the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the extra bit of content with the classic cars, and to take off the sting out of the horrendous driving that I was doing in Monaco. But at least that's the worst Grand Prix for me out of the way, and hopefully we can go back to get back to some good momentum back in the next couple of circuits, because Canada's actually a pretty nice circuit for me. And Baku was all right actually last year for me. So yeah, let's fingers crossed we can get back in the scoring form that we were in in Russia and also in Spain. So hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all for the next episode, which will be Canada. So until then, see you later.